From Massachusetts to California, from the Gulf Coast to the Pacific Northwest, every gardener has their story. Today, on the 1-year anniversary of the Coast to Coast collaboration, we are going to share our stories. So everyone, sit back, relax, grab your coffee. You are riding shotgun for this anniversary video. We all have our stories, right? If you're watching this video right now, you have a story on why you garden. It could be someone from your family's past. It could be really any reason. What we're going to do today is I'm going to kick this out to all the channels. Why do you garden? What made you start gardening? So right off the bat, let's just start up in the Pacific Northwest with Angela. Take it away.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Hippie Chick Homestead. First off, I want to congratulate Chad on his Coast to Coast collaboration anniversary. That's exciting and I'm really pleased to be a part of it. Second, I have to apologize. I'm in the greenhouse because it is pouring rain out. We're having our first major fall storm and it's raining buckets and the wind is howling, and hopefully you can still hear me over all of that. If I look back on why I have a garden and why I'm a gardener, I have to go back a lot of years, about 60 to be exact. My father was career military and we were stationed in Germany at the time. And as the military often did back then, it had messed up my father's pay pretty consistently and he wasn't receiving a paycheck. My mother didn't speak the language and had 4 kids to support without her support system of grandparents and my aunts and uncles. So in the dead of night, she felt desperate enough that she took her kids to a farmer's field and we stole corn so that we would have something to eat. When we got back home, we discovered that it was feed corn and it wasn't suitable for human consumption. So my first gardening experience with fresh produce was not a great one, but luckily that changed. And I hadn't even remembered that until something happened 55 years later that made me remember it. I'll get to that in a minute. We got back to the United States and we went to my grandmother's house and I was amazed at the abundance of food in her pantry. Food that she had grown and canned and could pull out at a minute's notice and have a meal on the table. So as the years went on, I pretty much forgot about gardening. I tried a couple times to grow tomatoes or pepper plants, but I never had much success because I didn't know what I was doing, quite honestly. And it wasn't until 55 years later that circumstances changed and those seeds that had been planted in me as a gardener really started sprouting. And the circumstances that changed it was COVID. Like most people, when our state went into COVID shutdown, we faced long lines, empty grocery shelves, and buzzwords became supply chain issues. I realized during COVID that most people live paycheck to paycheck. We don't have a huge cushion. And all it takes is for one pretty significant illness or a job loss. And we have to rely on others for our food. We face what we call now food insecurity, but what it really is hunger. So I did what a lot of people did during COVID. I turned to YouTube and I remembered that farmer's field. I remembered my grandmother's pantry and the difference in those two time periods in my life. And what had really saved me as a child from being hungry was my grandmother's pantry and her canned goods. So I decided to learn how to be a gardener and how to grow vegetables and how to preserve my own vegetables so that I wouldn't have to rely on a broken food chain in order to eat. That's when I took up gardening. I started watching different YouTube channels like Chad's and some others. And I learned what to do, what not to do, made a lot of mistakes along the way. But in the end, I ended up with a great garden that fills my family's needs. We have a great food source in my pantry of all the foods that I've canned. We have spices that I've grown and ground powders for onion powder, garlic powder, paprika. And I don't have to rely totally on a food system and a food chain that really doesn't care if I thrive or not. I can thrive on my own. So when you ask why I'm a gardener, I garden because of abundance. There's a lot of abundance in my garden beds, and it just requires me to make it grow.
So why do I garden? That question has, depending on what time of life I'm in, I would have a totally different answer. When I started gardening at 13. I'm 51 now, so it's quite a few years ago. I remember, I don't know, maybe between middle school, high school, right between the two. My parents had taped on VHS tape The Secret Garden. It was a Hallmark Hall of Fame. So if you guys are as old as me or older, you probably remember the Hallmark Hall of Fame. And I don't know, they taped it for some reason. They wanted us to watch it as a family, and I kept saying I didn't want to watch it. I wasn't interested in that. It was lame. And it took probably a couple months, but we finally sat down as a family and watched it. And I don't know, it sounds so corny that a movie like that could change your whole life, but I went from having no interest in gardening. Now, I have to say, I grew up, my grandparents were gardeners. My parents were not, but both sets of grandparents were gardeners. And at least on my dad's side, not only gardeners, but farmers, as far back as we've traced our roots all the way to like the Jamestown colony. And every time there is a profession listed, it's farmer. And so it's in the blood, I guess. And so I grew up in their garden, which I thought was so cool, and I've talked about it many times. Just the act of gardening. And I remember pulling a carrot out of the ground for the first time and seeing ladybugs on the carrots and stuff. But it was never something that I like internalized as to something that I would do. Maybe I thought that was for older people, because my parents didn't do it. Anyway, after seeing this movie, I immediately wanted a garden. And not long after that, a friend of mine from school gave me my first dahlia tuber. I didn't even know what it was. I'd never seen one before. Hadn't grown much before. But he gave this to me, and I planted it, and it grew into Formby Perfection. I'll never forget that name. And it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen in my life. He had gotten that from his neighbor, which turned out a couple years later would be the woman who completely hooked me on gardening. It was my sister's piano teacher. So I ended up getting lots of dahlias from her, and spent as much time with her as I could in her amazing garden. She was a California certified master gardener, and so just gleaning every bit of knowledge that I could, becoming more and more excited about it, more and more passionate about it. And then my best friend and I started growing dahlias competitively, not only with each other, but like in shows. And we kind of went from that to putting in displays at the county fair, landscape displays, which we won several of. Fast forward to I get married, live in an apartment with literally no garden. The balcony was northeast facing and had a really long overhang, so there was no sun on that balcony except for maybe a 2-hour space in the morning. So I kind of gave up on gardening, but I was married, and so we had other things. We were, on our own and doing other stuff. And it wasn't until a few years later, when Noah was born, we lived in a home where we could have a huge garden. Problem is, it was by the beach, and the ground was really sandy, and it took tons of water to even keep it irrigated. Fast forward a few years later, gardening became something that, instead of just doing for fun or for competition, it became basically life-saving. I had some medical issues and mental health issues, and gardening probably is not a far stretch to say it saved my life. I continue to do it for that reason. That plus the fact that, I became more aware of the broken food system in this country, and so gardening let me know that I was feeding my family, truly healthy, nutritious food. And now gardening is my job. And so it's this weird evolution all the way through my life. So gardening through my life, I've done it for at different times for different reasons. But for the full time, it's been a creative outlet, just a solace. And so I don't know. The question is why I garden. I garden because I don't know myself as not being able to garden. So, yeah, I garden because I literally need to. And I'm glad I have it.
Hi, y'all. I am so honored to be able to tell you why I garden. I remember days when I was really young, my grandfather always kept a garden. And I can honestly say he is the reason that I garden now. I started gardening when I was actually in college in my early 20s. Something just came across me and said, hey, you know what? Grow some beans and grow some flowers. And it just took off from there. My garden is truly my happy place. It is the place where I come to clear my head. It's the place I come to bring myself down from the very edges of my emotional and mental limits, really. And it's where I come to push my physical limits. I can work in the garden for hours and hours and not even pay any attention to time. I love being out here listening to the birds. I've got a few of them above me now. I love being out here and discovering new species of bees and the new snakes that I see that come into the yard. Not very fond of the rats, but I do understand their purpose, and I don't mind some of them being here because they're feeding the other things. We're all a part of God's wonderful creation. We all have a purpose, and being in the garden, putting my hands into the dirt and nurturing my plants just reminds me and humbles me to understand that as much control as I think I have, I don't really have control of anything because it's all God's plan. We can plant what we want, we can move our plants around, but we can't determine what's really going to happen with that plant until it actually happens. I love just being one with nature. One of my favorite things to do is to go out to national parks and just be still and be quiet in the world and just marvel at God's wonders. That little piece of heaven is right here in my garden. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I look forward to coming out here. Even when I'm not feeling well, I want to at least just come out and walk through the garden. It is such an honor to find so many people through this platform who share the same passion. And I've made so many new friends. I'm looking forward to meeting so many more people so that I can share my love of gardening and bring new gardeners into our wonderful circle.
Howdy, y'all. Dale here from OSKG, and if I'm not mistaken, the point of this month's Coast to Coast video is for us to explain why and how we got into gardening. Well, about 5 years ago, I had a major heart attack. They call it a widowmaker. Most people don't survive one, but me being the bad butt that I am, I survived it, and after recovering, my doctor said, you need to get a hobby. Become more active. and there's not a lot of things that I liked or had interest in. So just to kind of hush him up, I'm like, okay, I'll garden. I've never gardened or grown anything before in my life. And we also, at the time, lived in a place where we rented and could not put a garden in the ground. So I was like, well, I guess I'll buy a whole bunch of flower pots. But I had this old milk crate laying there. And I came up with the idea of if I fill this milk crate, line it with garden fabric, fill it with soil, I can grow it. Well, that one milk crate turned into 200 milk crates. And our first year of gardening, that's about how many we had on a concrete slab that we called the concrete garden. We grew tomatoes, peppers, everything you can imagine in those milk crates. And the milk crates were super cheap. So if you live in a place where you can't dig in the ground, milk crates are basically free. Go to your Starbucks, your coffee shop, go to grocery stores. They've got tons and they're always looking to give them away. So the only thing you needed to buy was the garden fabric, the soil, and your seeds. So that's a great little tip for people that want to get into gardening but don't have the money or the space or whatever. So that's how we started gardening. Then we moved to where we currently are, and I decided, okay, I'll build a raised bed. Well, that one raised bed turned into 10 because I can't do anything small. I gotta go big all the time. And it really was a learning curve. There was lots to learn, but it really did lower my stress. I really did enjoy being out there, getting the fresh air, gardening every day, because you've got to stay on top of a garden. So there's always something to be done. So that's my story of why I garden and how I got into gardening. Thanks for listening. See you at OSKG. Stop on by anytime. And thanks for checking out my Coast to Coast. Bye, y'all.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Project Help Desk Garden in glorious Zone 8A, North Carolina, where we are currently shutting down for the season and just got through harvesting a 43-pound volunteer watermelon that survived both a lawnmower and a flamethrower.
Why do we garden?
Because one video I saw said that once Gen X gets a certain age, you have to either become a bird watcher or a gardener, and I didn't want to watch birds. Well, actually, I kind of did both, didn't I? If you've stumbled across this video and you've never gardened before and said to yourself, hey, I don't know how to do any of that stuff, we didn't either. I mean,
we still don't.
A seed falls on the ground in nature. Get a pot, put some dirt in it, throw a seed in there. It grows or it doesn't. What, you lost a $3 pack of seeds if it doesn't? And if it does, you might actually get to eat something.
Chad was asking why we garden.
I figured it was the one place I could come safely out and you wouldn't follow me. Bugs, dirt.
Nature touched me.
See?
I got poked by that.
This was supposed to be my safe place to get away from you, and you came out with me. And all you did was grab a camera and still follow me.
That's right.
Unlike a lot of the other channels, we're not a gardening channel. We are, for lack of a better word, a hobby channel, projects. And one project we hadn't done yet was gardening. I always had a saying of, it's okay to pay someone to do something for you because you want to, but never because you have to. So I've spent my life basically knowing how to do everything that I can. I've never paid a plumber. I've never paid an electrician. Basically, I've always done my own work. One of the few things that I've always basically had to pay someone to do is give me my food. So you're born knowing nothing. You spend your entire life learning. And it isn't until the very end that you're getting old that you finally kind of realize what the important stuff is. And you sort of get into that really wanting to be one with the environment, your planet, your nature. And this is just part of that. With our hummingbirds, when the feeder was empty this year, this plant has done wonders at basically feeding my hummingbirds. The spiders are living up in it right now. It's just the giant circle of life. Plus, it's like potatoes aren't good for someone who is a diabetic. Sunchokes are a healthier thing, but you can't buy those. This basically gives me the opportunity to actually grow stuff that I can't get anywhere else.
Plus, we're going to have an endless supply of sweet potatoes.
We're going to have sweet potatoes in here forever. I mean, plus, the world's losing its pollinators. We've been able to basically give a home and a food source for so many of the pollinator bees. Plus, I've always been a curious person who loves to, I mean, we call our garden an experiment every year because that's what it is. We're experimenting. We're trying new things out and sort of learning new stuff that we don't know through experimentation.
Plus, I beat you in the tomato challenge.
You're still not going to let that one go.
Nope.
Plus, any excuse to go to Amazon and buy new toys and tools and, you know, I invent hobbies just to buy new tools.
Plus, if I hadn't gardened, I wouldn't have a cool bench.
Getting back to my another excuse to buy new tools. Plus the fact that we are very much hermits. Like, the reason we're probably still doing this now, 3 years later, is that the community invited us in, and we've actually kind of enjoyed that. You know, we're that hermit couple who lives down the road that everyone talks about, and like, I dare you to go to old man so-and-so's house and ring the doorbell.
Chad was asking, why?
When I was getting a tractor.
Thanks, Chad. My name is Rick, and welcome to my Cape Cod life, and happy birthday to all of us here at Coast to Coast. 1 year this has been going on, and I've been here for 6 of those months. We have a little bit of a theme going on this month, and it's why we garden. So let's talk about that for a brief minute.
These beets, time to harvest. I'm gonna make pickled beets with some of them. These are cylindrical, so it's like a longish beet. See there?
Why do I garden? Well, it started about 52 years ago. We had a big family garden, and that made me know what real vegetables taste like, and it's not what you're gonna find in the grocery store. Also, I'm a bit of a foodie. I like food. I like good tasting food, and what better food for you than out of your own garden, at the very least from a farm stand, right? Here in 7A, tomatoes are done. A lot of things are done. I showed you the beets, they're looking good. I'm still waiting for my Tabasco peppers to ripen. Let's go look at them. Just starting to turn, so hopefully we beat the frost. So ever since I was a kid, I was 12 years old when we first started gardening with my family. The first seed I dropped was black-seeded Simpson, still one of my favorite lettuces of all time. Mostly nostalgic, but it is very delicious. So the family garden. I loved gardening from the get-go, but what happened as a teenager, it became too much of a chore. I mean, one year we had 125 tomato plants. Can you imagine that? My poor mom would start canning in July and didn't stop until well into October, and that was several times a week she was putting up something. I would get stuck, picking the beans, doing the weeding, all the stuff that goes along with the gardens, and I really did like it. But my friends in the summertime were going to the town pool, and I couldn't get my chores done in time to be able to join them, so I started to get a little resentment. In my early adult life, when I was away from home, I didn't garden. Maybe I would grow a few herb plants, but I always went to the farm stand when food was in season. So bringing back to the foodie part of me, I love fresh food. I like unusual foods, something you can't find in a supermarket, and that's why I garden. My lettuce is looking like I can start harvesting some of it. Yum. My okra is getting shot. There won't be any more okra. I got a few pods on there, but they're kind of awkward looking. I have some brassicas in here. I have kale, that's looking great. And I have broccoli. I'm hoping we still have enough time for it to do its thing. If not, broccoli leaves are rather delicious, really. All right, folks, well, that's the garden here on Cape Cod, Zone 7A. Got a few things. The cooler weather's definitely coming in. It's basically been in the 60s, 40s at night, maybe 50s. And we've got a few more things going on. We'll see how far I can extend it into the season. And also, if you go to my channel, I'll have a longer story about my garden. Hashtag my garden story. So I hope you go over and check that out, and I'll talk about my family and food and the garden. Back to you, Chad. Thanks a lot.
Hey guys, it's your boy Big Wheel Dog 82 in the soil, and instead of doing our normal, trip around the garden, seeing what I'm doing or what I'm trying to get on top of, this month in the Coast to Coast, we're doing something a little different. And what that difference is letting you all know what our garden means to us personally and our reason to do it. Now, everybody's is different, but mine, in a very, very short, explanation of it all, is I do it first and foremost for my own mental, personal health, for my family's, help because I feel like I'm contributing. But outside of that, I enjoy the fact of giving away produce that I've worked months to grow. Feeling like I'm able to provide somebody quality food without having to charge them for it, especially now with how expensive groceries are, with some people not getting any kind of benefits because of things that are going on here in the US, or just the appreciation that they have, especially the neighbors that I have around me who see me toil day after day during the warm season in the early spring and then clean up in the fall. They understand the work that has gone into it because they see it every day. That alone is enough to sit there and spark me to sit there and say, I want more of that. I need more of that. Because again, I'm doing something with my hands that I can see and is tangible. And then there's also things like this whole coast to coast collaboration that we've been doing for a year now, and the people and the connections that I've made, the new viewers who didn't know that I existed because I have only existed for a year too. All of that comes together, and it's like having 1,000 brains. Say I have a problem and I can't figure it out, and if, say, my closest group of friends who are also gardeners haven't seen it or don't know how to handle it specifically, there's so many of you out there that know more than I do about management of stuff, and you guys have been instrumental for me in my gardening, and I thank you. I've got a video, just like a lot of the other creators are doing, a long form video where I'm sitting there showing you guys my motivations family wise, how it connects to my garden, why I even started gardening to begin with, as well as what drove me to start my channel. So please check it out. Definitely check out all the other individuals on here's stories because they're all different. And thank you for returning back every month for this. With that, I'm your boy, Big Wheel Dog 82 in the soil. And I'm out of here. See you guys next month, all right?
You know, I call this channel Gardening and Crocs for a reason. It's not all about the latest and greatest trends in gardening. It's not all about having the perfect garden. Heck, it's not even about growing the biggest tomato or garlic. Right, Big Wheel Dog? What it is to me, it's about being comfortable. Gardening with Crocs on, how much more comfortable can you get than that? I tell you what, it's about being grounded. It's about getting your hands dirty. It's about having a connection to nature. It's about getting all those worries from the real life, your real world, just put them past you. So let's start back at the beginning. How did I get into gardening? Well, the first thing I will tell you is I started gardening way back whenever I was a kid. Probably about Kid Croc's age. My parents always had a garden. My grandparents always had a garden. Heck, one of my grandpas, he was a farmer. Not this field back here, but he had many acres that he farmed. He also had a home garden. They did a lot of canning. All three of them did a lot of canning. Both sets of grandparents and my mom and dad also did a lot of canning. It was kind of second nature for me just to go out in the garden and help out, plant a seed. That's probably where that's probably where my first seed was planted, was out in those gardens. My grandparents' garden and my mom and dad's garden. Literally, whenever I could see a little seed being planted and see that thing sprout and come up as a plant, that's pretty amazing, especially when you're a little youngster. So that's where I started out with my gardening experience. Now that gardening experience did grow and grow and grow and grow, essentially, as time went on. So I remember one summer whenever I was probably middle school age or high school, my brother and I, we each took half a garden, and we manned the garden for the whole summer. And we had a contest to see who can get most out of the garden. I don't know who truly won, but I think we both won because we both had a successful garden, and we both learned a lot that summer. I ended up going and moving into my own house, my own place. Finally, I had my own little place that I can choose to have my garden. Now my first garden, it was probably about an 8x8 or 16x16 bed, raised bed that I just grew in. Pretty simple things: tomatoes, peppers. I did some onions, I did some green beans, all those. And then probably about 10 years later, we moved into this house, into this garden. I started a garden. One of the unique things that I started with this garden, why I started this garden actually, was I was big into brewing beer. I did a lot of hops. I had like 16 different hop plants. I had a big old hop trellis. It also got that itch for the gardening side of me. Soon after, I slowly started getting more back into the gardening side of things, planting more tomatoes, planting more green beans, planting the strawberries that I had. Oh my gosh, those first strawberries that I pulled out of the garden, were fantastic. I also find the garden a sense of heritage. I can talk about the garden all day long to both my sons. I get a little bit of help out here from time to time, but I'm hoping that they come out and they'll be the same way as me. They see me working out in the garden. I saw my dad working out in the garden. I'm sure he saw his dad working out in the garden, and the thing trickles down. So heritage, I'm trying to learn how to do things so I can pass it down to my children. And I can do this lead by example. My children will do the same thing. So that's my story. Started in my grandparents' garden, then my parents' garden, and now my own garden, my own grocery store, my own little slice of Zen, if you will, my own little science lab, my own little community. But now I want to hear from you. Why did you start your garden? Why do you guys garden? Leave me a comment down below. Cheers, everybody, and God bless.
Thank you, Chad, for including us in your Coast to Coast update every month. We do enjoy it so much. This month, we're talking about our personal story and why we garden. First, I'll let Mrs. Bowtie talk about her story.
When I was growing up, my mother had a garden every summer. She loved fresh tomatoes, green beans, and fruit. In fact, we had 2 peach trees in our front yard. Well, not really trees, more like bushes. Every summer, they produced so much fruit that there was enough for us to make pies and cobblers for not only us, but to also share with the neighbors. On those hot Texas days, we would all sit around in the front yard under the oak trees, drinking iced tea and having that homemade peach treat. Heck, even the dog joined in. He used to carry peaches he pulled from the lower branches around like a ball before he finally ate them. I lost my mother some time ago, but that memory will live on with the 2 new peach trees David is planting for me this year.
And so for the past several years, I've been thinking very carefully about the concept of story and how each one of us has our own unique story that has brought us to the point where we are in our lives. And I know for me, that helped to form the personality that I am today. Things that I have allowed in and things that I haven't. Growing up as a child with ADHD, I was led to believe that I was broken and there was something wrong with me, and I've come to learn now there wasn't anything wrong with me. I was just different. And so when my mom created her garden in upstate New York, I was interested in the beginning and did a few projects for school, like growing the beans in grade school and figuring out how to make scientific observations. As time passed and we moved to a new place in Glens Falls, New York, I used to enjoy sitting in the rows of her garden and eating lima beans and tomatoes. I learned to love the quiet and the peace of just being in a cozy little space. And today I like to think of that as feeling God's hug, feeling like you're in God's place right now. I very seldom come out here under the garden with a headset of any kind. I enjoy hearing the birds, the wind, things growing, the little lizards crawling across the leaves. And I truly enjoy just being in the garden. There were times I would go out into the woods behind our house and just find little places to go sit for a while, sometimes quietly, and sometimes just let my imagination roam with wild stories. I've always felt comfortable in those cozy little spaces that the garden provides. I think that's probably why I have so many places like that all throughout my garden. And so for me, the reason I garden is because of memories of my mother's garden.
All of those stories are just simply awesome. A beautiful tapestry of just what we all go through as people. Starting a hobby that is truly fulfilling. And that's what I feel it is for me. Sitting out here right now in the morning, looking at everything. Let me spin the camera around so you can see what I see. So, all those loofahs right there and everything down that way. listening to the birds, watching all the bees, dealing with the mosquitoes, which is part of it, right? Sitting out here on a morning like this just reminds me on why I do this, why I come out here. Not even why, more why. What's the passion that I have for coming out here? There's just something amazing, y'all, about being able to plant a seed and having that seed produce whatever it's going to become. But to watch that journey and to know that you, with your hands, planted that seed, it's just something remarkable. It's something that truly waters my soul, feeds my soul, makes me genuinely excited to get up, come out here, and see what the day has. What is nature decided to throw at us today? Whether it's an amazing harvest, or on the flip side of that, pests and damage. There's just something truly remarkable about this journey that we're all on. So why do I garden? What got me into gardening? What got me started on this quest of gardening? Now, if you've watched my channel for any amount of time, y'all know it's my grandmother.
My beautiful tomatoes. We'll come out here and dig right in here for my tomatoes and my cucumber.
My grandmother, my mom's mom, she had a huge influence on me, and that influence lay dormant, y'all, for a very long time. It was still there, but it was dormant. Let's just be real. I was in the military for a long time, so it's not like you can really plant gardens when you're constantly moving. I mean, you can, but you know what I mean. And then in 2020, I had a life event happen, and I decided at that point I was going to finally do something that I've been wanting to do forever, and that was start a garden. So I did. I started very small, started right back here on this fence line that I'm sitting on, and then everything that I had just showed you, I just slowly expanded that way, to the point now where I'm pretty much maxed out on this backyard. And that's fine. It's part of it, right? But that's why I started gardening. And then continuing down the path of gardening, I then got into recording and sharing and collaborating like we're doing right here in this video. And I know I'm looking around a lot, y'all, but it's really hard to focus here when you've got so much beauty out here. You know what I mean. The reason that I continue gardening is because it's in my soul. Once you get your hands in the dirt and you get the gardening bug in you, it becomes a part of who you are. So if you're a beginner gardener right now, and I know it's the end of October, so we're going into November, and much of the country is not gardening right now, or they're starting to stop gardening because you've got winters coming. Like legit winters, not winters like I have. Legit winters, feet of snow and freezing, below freezing temps and all that. Then you're going to start planning for your spring garden, right? If you're a beginner gardener and that's what you're doing, that's amazing. Continue doing it. Prepare, prepare, prepare. Every one of the collaborators on this video are all going to be putting out videos to help prepare for spring. Show you what they are doing in their zones to prepare for spring. So if you found a collaborator in this video that you connected with, please go down into the description, click on their link to their channel and subscribe and start following them and supporting them. And that goes for all of us. Support all of us, subscribe to all of us, and all the information for all the channels are down below in the description. But like I mentioned a second ago, I started gardening because of a connection with my grandmother that I had from when I was a little kid. She was fantastic, taught me so much about nature, about growing, about birds. Her husband, my mom's dad, taught me fishing, and so did my other grandparents, but my mom's parents specifically really taught me that side of stuff. My dad's parents taught me about the Word of God and the Bible, and they all go together. Let's be real. There's so many references in the Bible about gardening. Just saying. But that is why I started initially gardening, because of a connection to a history, to a memory of me and my grandmother, and watching her joy when she'd get a cucumber or whatever she was growing, green beans. It was just amazing. So that's why I garden, y'all. Connection to the past. Now fast forward to today. I find gardening as a way of connecting back there, connecting with him, and preparing the future generations for gardening, which is what we're all doing on this collaboration video. We are all teaching people who want to learn to garden or who want to just follow us. The root of this video, it's all about gardening and teaching and sharing. And that is where I find my joy when the camera is rolling. When the camera's off, y'all, I mean, let me show you a different angle. When the camera is off, this is my utopia right out here. Now, I've got a lot of open areas because I am so far behind on fall gardening, it's not even funny. But that's okay. It's part of gardening. You get behind because life gets in the way and you're busy doing other things, and it is what it is. But that is why I garden. And I loved all the stories from everybody on why they've all gotten into gardening. And I find that we all might have come to this goal in a different direction, a different path, different journey, but we're all on the same path, right? We're all gardeners, first and foremost, and we all love to share. So I hope everyone got something out of this video. If you did, please go down below into the description, click on the links to the channels that you connected with, subscribe, support, and sit back and enjoy the ride. Everyone take care. May God continue to bless literally each and every one of you, and we will all talk to you all again real soon. Bye. 1 year already. Blows my mind. Y'all didn't think that was it, did you? We all have one more thing to say.
I garden because it helps me stay focused, mind, body, and spirit, while also helping others at the same exact time.
I garden because my doctor said I needed to get off my lazy butt and get a hobby. And I thought, gardening, that's got to be easy. I've never grown anything before. It'll be a snack.
I garden because connecting with nature soothes my soul.
I garden because it grounds me and gets me closer to nature.
I garden because of abundance. There's a lot of abundance in my garden beds, and it just requires me to make it grow.
Yeah, I garden because I literally need to.
I garden because of my mom.
I garden because of my mom.
I garden because I know what vegetables are supposed to taste like.
I garden because of my grandmother and him.
I garden because it's my hobby and I enjoy the food independence. Plus, the wife won't let me get a tractor so I can have a real farm.
Now that y'all know why we garden, why do you garden? And what is your family story?